A spring day in 1995. The trains and stations full of commuters. Suddenly, chaos. People collapsing. There was panic and death. Terror in Tokyo. The work of a group called Aum Shrinyko. It was the first time the world saw a chemical attack like this. Urban terrorists unleashing a killer gas, a weapon of mass destruction.
My eyes were hurting. My sinuses were bothering me, and I was feeling very weak by that time. But I thought it was just my allergy symptoms, and I didn't connect the two.
The authorities first thought a natural gas explosion.
I've no idea what happened. My eyes hurt. I'm about to pass out.
In fact, the people here had been attacked with the nerve gas sarin. Shisue Takahashi's husband worked for the subway system. He was just doing his job.
My husband removed a sarin-soaked package from the subway train to the platform. And then he cleaned the sarin stains on the platform. During this cleaning, he fainted. That was what I was told. My sister called me about the attack. I rushed to the hospital. When I got there, my husband's body was cold on the bed.
Mr. Takahashi died within 10 minutes of his exposure to sarin. That's how fast sarin will kill if it's inhaled. It can also be absorbed through the skin. It can lodge in the eyes. Without immediate medical attention, sarin victims suffer convulsions, coma, and cardiac arrest. Sarin exposure can be treated by injection with atropine, but it must be done quickly. Within 2 hours of the attack, an obscure cult and its leader became the prime suspects. He was born Chizuo Matsumoto, and he dreamed of being Japan's prime minister. But he never made it through college, and in 1982, he was jailed for selling fake medicines. After his release, he changed his name to Shoko Asahara and created his own religion. By 1995, Asahara's Aum Shrinyko had attracted more than 40,000 followers in several countries, and the cult's assets were worth $1.5 billion.
What's important is how we are going to use the donations. Our intention is to use them for a good cause.
Asahara proclaimed himself savior. He built his cult on visions of an apocalypse and urged his followers to prepare for the world's final destruction, from which they would emerge triumphant.
To followers, his existence is beyond God. He's a superpower. So, he controls the whole universe. In actuality, he's just a psychopath.
To carry out Asahara's vision, Aum Shrinyko sought weapons of mass destruction. They tried unsuccessfully to obtain nuclear weapons.
If Asahara had the choice to simply hit the button to shoot an atomic bomb, like the button the President of the United States has to end the world, he would have done it. It's as simple as that.
They tried to make biological weapons,
but they had grave difficulty releasing them, because it's hard to release biological weapons. Then they turned to chemical weapons, several of them, but particularly sarin gas.
Fortunately for the millions who ride Tokyo's subways, the cult members mixed the sarin imperfectly. Otherwise, many more would have died. The delivery method was primitive. 5 attackers dropped and then punctured 11 packages containing sarin in trains throughout the system. The gas spread to more than 15 stations.
The idea was to release an enormous amount of sarin gas that would create a major catastrophe, and the Japanese would think that the Americans had released the gas. The Americans would think that the Japanese had released the gas. Other countries would join in World War III, which would in turn bring about a biblical Armageddon. Of course, that was fantasy, but it was fantasy backed up with building weapons of mass destruction.
12 died. 4,000 more were sent to the hospital in the subway attack. More than 200 members of the cult were arrested. 10 were sentenced to death. Shoko Asahara is still on trial. Mrs. Takahashi still mourns her husband's death. The quiet widow of an assistant station master, she has become the leader of the relatives of the cult's victims, and she has attended the trials every day.
In my life, nothing is the same anymore. The same with my children. It takes a long time to reestablish our life from that point. I used to think that Japan, including Tokyo, was a safe place. Such a safe place like Japan couldn't have sarin. I can't say that it's over in my life until I know that all of the assailants, are punished by death.
Yesterday it was Tokyo. Today it could be New York, San Francisco, London, Paris, Moscow, Washington. Terror cells have been broken up around the world since the attacks of 9/11.
What we should learn out of Aum Shrinyko is, all right, can they really do it? Aum Shrinyko was kind of like my idea of a nightmare of a terrorist group, because not only did they have a leader who was pretty wacky, and determined to pursue these weapons, but they were very well financed.
Aum Shrinyko were bent on joining in an Armageddon-like process in order to destroy the entire world for the purpose of spiritually renewing it. In that sense, what you have in your mind is not the feeling that you're a murderer, but rather you're carrying out a vision of the highest spiritual significance. And that was true of Aum Shrinyko. It can be true of certain suicide bombers or certain Islamist fanatics. You have, as with Aum Shrinyko, a combination of ultimate zealotry and ultimate weapons. There couldn't be a more dangerous combination.